I still remember that night on the plane like it happened an hour ago. The kind of night you don't plan for, but somehow changes everything. I was sitting way back in economy, shoulders hunched, cardigan pulled tight because the AC was too cold. I kept my eyes on the little screen in front of me, trying to disappear into some old movie, when I heard a baby crying up in first class, high and sharp like glass cracking. Folks groaned, some laughed under their breath. Me, I just sat there stomach twisting because I knew that sound. It wasn't hunger, it was panic. The crying kept climbing louder and louder until it felt like the whole plane was vibrating with it. Every few seconds the curtain would flutter as a flight attendant pushed through with a bottle or a pacifier. Then I heard a man's voice, tight and frayed. Please just stop crying. It was the kind of voice you use when you've tried everything. I peeked up and caught a glimpse, a big man in a tailored jacket bouncing a little girl who couldn't have been more than 7 months old. His face was slick with sweat. You could tell he wasn't used to feeling helpless. I tried to stay quiet, I really did. But then I saw the baby's tiny fists punching the air, her back arching, her mouth wide open like she was screaming against the whole world. Before I even realized it, I'd unbuckled my seatbelt and stood. Please, let me try. I called toward the curtain, my voice shaking. Heads snapped around. Someone muttered, "Who does she think she is?" Another snickered, "Sit down, sweetheart." My cheeks burned, but I lifted my chin. "She's overstimulated," I said louder. "I can help." The head attendant, Carla, blonde bob uniform so crisp it almost hurt to look at, turned on her heel and marched to the curtain. She gave me this slow, sweeping look like she was scraping mud off her shoes. "Ma'am, sit down. This is first class. You don't belong here." That's what she said, clear as day. My hands shook, but I kept my voice even. "Please, I know what to do." She laughed sharp and ugly. "Help, honey, stay in your lane." Somebody in first class chuckled. "Yeah, let the professionals handle it." And then she slapped me. A flat crack across my cheek so loud it made the baby's cry dip for a second. I stumbled back into the armrest, vision flashing. Gasps rippled through the cabin, but no one moved. Not one person. She leaned in close, voice icy. "Sit down before I have you restrained." For a second I thought about it. I've been invisible most of my life. It's safer that way. But then the baby screamed again, raw and desperate, and something in me snapped. I straightened, cheek-burning eyes, wet but steady. "I'm not sitting down," I said quietly. "That baby needs help." The man in the jacket looked up, then eyes locking on me. He'd seen the slap, the sneer, everything. "Do you even have credentials?" he barked, exhaustion and pride making his tone hard. "My daughter isn't an experiment." My voice trembled, but I held it. I trained in pediatric nursing. I didn't finish because my brother needed me. But I know this. Please. She's drowning in noise. Silence stretched. The baby's screams filled it like sirens. Then the man closed his eyes, jaw tight. "Do it," he said finally. Carla's face blanched. "Sir." "Let her through," he snapped. The whole cabin held its breath as I pushed past the curtain, my cheeks still hot from the slap. I reached for the baby, whispering, "May I?" He hesitated a heartbeat, then handed her over. Her body was trembling, hot with frustration. I pressed her against my chest, shielding her eyes from the lights. "Shh. You're safe," I murmured. At first, nothing changed. Carla smirked. People muttered. But then the baby's cries caught, hitched, softened. Her fists unclenched, her cheek pressed into my collarbone. The man stared like he was watching a magic trick. "How?" he began. I whispered back, "She doesn't need perfection. She needs calm." The cabin fell into a hush, embarrassment spreading through the folks who'd mocked me minutes before. He leaned closer, still bouncing between gratitude and pride. "How did you know I told him about my brother, about the nights when the world was too loud, about dropping out of school to care for him?" He listened, shoulders sagging. "I haven't slept since her mother passed," he admitted under his breath. "I'm scared all the time." His voice cracked, and I saw the real man under the Billionaire headlines. Not a mogul, a dad drowning. Then the plane jolted hard, turbulence slamming through the cabin. Drinks spilled, passengers gasped. Emma, that was the baby's name, whimpered, fists trembling. The man's grip tightened, panic rising again. "Steady," I told him, guiding his arms. "Breathe slow. She'll follow you." He tried, but his breath came ragged. Carla reappeared, face pinched. "Give the baby to me. We have procedures for this." "No!" he barked. Emma startled, crying harder. I stood braced against the shaking floor. "She doesn't need procedures. She needs presence," I shot back. Passengers started nodding, murmuring support. The balance shifted. Carla's authority cracked like thin ice. Emma's cries spiked, then faltered as I cupped the back of her tiny head. "The world is shaking. But you're safe," I whispered, rocking her against the rhythm of the turbulence. When the air finally smoothed out, you could feel the whole cabin exhale. Folks leaned back, whispering, some with shame, some with relief. The man stared at me, then at his daughter, and for the first time he asked softly, "Do you want to try holding her?" I blinked. "Me?" "Yes," he said, voice trembling. "She needs to know I can be her calm, too." He took her back, hands shaking, but followed my breathing. Inhale slow, exhale steady. His daughter whimpered, then relaxed. Tears welled in his eyes. "She's calming." "Because I am," he whispered. "Exactly," I said. Later, when she started fussing again, I asked him, "Do you know what your wife used to sing to her?" His eyes flickered. "Yes, but I haven't." "Sing it," I urged. "Not for us, for her." At first he resisted, pride and grief battling in his throat. But then he closed his eyes and began. His voice cracked rough and low, but the melody spilled out awkward and true. And Emma recognized it. You could see it in her tiny shoulders, the way she melted into his shirt, breathing, slowing, fists loosening. The cabin went silent, not the awkward silence from before, but something reverent. A billionaire singing his wife's lullaby to their baby at 30,000 feet. Phones rose, but nobody laughed. Some wiped their eyes. When the song ended, Emma was asleep, her cheek pressed against his chest. The man, his name was Ethan Lane, but I didn't know it. Then looked at me, eyes wet. "I thought singing would just remind me of what I lost," he whispered. I shook my head. It reminded her of what she still has. "You." The words landed between us like a small truth too big to ignore. Carla tried one more time, hissing about protocols and liability, but by then the passengers were no longer on her side. Ruth, the older woman nearby, stood up and said in a voice that carried, "We saw who saved that child. Show some respect." Murmurs of agreement spread. Even a businessman who'd mocked me earlier muttered, "Guess I was wrong." By the time we began our descent into New York, my stomach was in knots. Security was visible through the window at the gate. I'd been around long enough to know how these things end. People like me don't get thank yous. We get blamed. I sat frozen, bracing for it. Ethan shifted Emma in one arm and placed his free hand over mine. "They're not taking you," he said quietly. "Not after what you did tonight." His words landed heavier than the slap. As the plane taxied, Carla whispered to the officers waiting at the gate, pointing at me like I was contraband. But before they could move, Ethan stood, towering voice cutting through the cabin. "Before anyone lays a hand on her, you hear me first." Passengers froze. Ruth rose too, her silver hair catching the light. We saw who struck first. We saw who calmed that child. If they drag her off, shame on all of us who stay silent. The officers listened. They looked at Ethan, then at me, then at the rows of people nodding, some speaking up. A junior attendant even admitted she'd seen Carla slap me. The tide turned. The lead officer's tone shifted, respectful now. "Miss," he said, "you're not under investigation. We'll be speaking to the crew." Carla's face went pale. For the first time all night, she had nothing to say. Ethan exhaled hard, then turned to me. "See," he murmured, "you're not alone in this." My hands trembled. "They believed me," I whispered. "They saw you," he corrected softly. "For the first time, they saw you." Passengers began filing out, some pausing to touch my shoulder, whispering thanks or encouragement. A businessman muttered, "Guess I was wrong." Ruth gave me a small nod, like a benediction. We walked off the plane together, a billionaire, his baby, and me, past the uniformed officers and the stunned flight crew. The morning light in the terminal was harsh, buzzing fluorescent, but for once it didn't swallow me whole. My name was already on headlines, tied to a story I hadn't chosen. Baby saved by stranger. Billionaire confronts flight attendant over slap. I felt sick thinking about it, but also lighter. I had spent my whole life shrinking to fit in shadows. That night in the sky, there was no shadow big enough to hide me. As we stepped onto the jet bridge, Ethan adjusted Emma and glanced at me. "You don't have to be silent anymore," he said quietly. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe one night could rewrite years of dismissal. But deep down, I knew scars don't vanish just because someone clapped for you. Still, his hand was warm over mine, steady as we walked past the cameras and murmurs. And that's the story, really not about a billionaire or a miracle, but about a moment when compassion broke through protocol, when a baby's cry turned strangers into witnesses. I don't know what happened to Ethan Lane after that flight. I don't know if he kept singing to his daughter. I just know that for a few hours high above the ocean, a curtain dropped between first class and economy, and we were all just people aching and trying. If you've ever been on a flight or in a store or on a street corner and watched someone get dismissed, mocked, or shut down, ask yourself, would you have stood up or would you have stayed quiet? Because the truth is, the lines we draw between each other are thinner than we think, and sometimes all it takes is one person saying, "Let me help to change everything." If this story stirred something in you, drop a comment below. Tell me if you've ever seen someone defy the odds like that, or if you've been that person yourself. Do you think society judges too fast? Do we punish compassion? Let's talk about it.